In this section we're going to look at percentages. And the first question you'll be asked about percentages is just being able to recognize and convert from a decimal to a percentage. And what you need to know is that all percentages are measured out of 100. So there's 100%. That would be the total, what all percentages are measured out of. So if you're asked to work out from a decimal to a percentage, for example, in question number 1 here, you're asked to work out what 0.33 is. Well, all you have to do is look at the tens and the hundreds columns and you write down that as a percentage. So in other words, 0.33 is equal to 33%. If you had, if you look at question number 2, 0.1, a quick tip for this is to make sure you've got the same number of digits for each decimal. So in other words, make sure your decimal goes to the hundreds column. So you've got the units column, the tens column, the hundreds column. You can fill in a 0 here, and that therefore would equal 10%. And if you apply the same rule to the third part, you've got 1.0 which you need to convert. Remember I said that you need to have the same amount of decimal places. So we're going to go to the hundreds column. And what do we get if you ignore the decimal point? 100%. So as a decimal, 1.0 will be equal to 100%. And that's the first part of percentages that you need to learn. The second part in relation to percentages, you're asked to calculate 30% of £160. So what is 30% of £160? Well, there are numerous ways of working this out. The first way is to write down what 30% actually means. So, like we said earlier, percentages are always measured out of 100, so therefore 30% is 30 out of 100. And we're trying to work out what 30% is of 160. I'm going to make 160 into a fraction, therefore I just divide that by 1. We can simplify a little, so if we cross off a 0 on the top, we can cross off a 0 on the bottom. Indeed, you can also do diagonal simplification, so I can cross off a 0 here, and I can cross off a 0 here. And now that'll take me straight to the answer. 3 times 16 equals 48. If you couldn't do that in your head, then you would just write out a little multiplication sum, like so, and that would enable you to get the answer. So that's the first method of being able to write down the answer and work this question out. The second method of working out what 30% of £160 is to work out what 10% of 160 is, and then using that figure, then apply that to work out 30%. So 10%, and to work out 10% of any number, all you do is divide by 10. So therefore 30% would be 160 divided by 10, and that will give you an answer of 16. Once we've found 10%, we now need to work out what 30% is. How to get from 10 to 30? Well, I'm obviously going to multiply by 3. So if you know that relationship, you therefore just multiply this by 3 as well. And 3 16s are 48. So that is an alternative way of working out what 30% of £160 is.